Hello, and thanks for joining me for this episode of Communication Connection. I'm your host, Victoria Bailey, and stopping by for conversation today, he is a multimedia journalist here in the Magnolia State, an award-winning journalist, and of course, a Mississippi State University graduate. Please welcome Kaleb Green. Hey, Kaleb, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Yes, so of course, currently you work as a multimedia journalist, but let's go back a little bit into your history. Talk about some of the earlier influences, kind of what got you interested in storytelling.
What got me interested in storytelling is just, it's media. I love watching movies and TV shows and listening to podcasts. And what specifically got me into journalism was like podcasts, This American Life, Radiolab, that sort of storytelling where you have somebody going boots on the ground and talking to people, hearing their stories and telling it with some like flair, telling it with a little bit, not just like spouting the facts at you and getting it done. I like all the production that goes into it and all the artistic effort that goes into making something flow, and you have all the music and the sounds and all the little details. That's what like really interests me in that kind of production.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about just experience with growth and development. You graduated from Mississippi State University. What are some things that make up Kaleb the journalist? What are some things you went through, some experiences you had?
Just like going to the biggest thing that has grown my skill set, and the biggest thing that I have learned getting out into the field is getting feedback from people who have been in the industry for a long time. My boss, Joey Barnes, he's so busy all the time, but whenever I can get him to vet one of my stories, whenever I can bring him one of my scripts and say, Joey, can you give me some tips on how I can punch this up or how I can tighten this up a little bit, I am just so happy when he brings me back something and it's still in my voice. He still manages to keep it in my voice, but like tighten it up and make it more interesting and make it more like I'm telling a story and not just telling you the facts of what happened. And it's funny because I learned different things from each person that vets my story. So I try to keep a rotation if I can of different people. So like I'll go to Joey to get it to like punch it up a little bit, like I was saying. But Marcus Hunter, I love when he vets my stories because he can tighten up sound bites really well. He'll be like, that sound bite drags a little bit. If you just tighten it up, it still means the same thing, but it gets that like pacing a little bit better. Your story is less boring. And he's really taught me a lot about punching up with that. And then Eric Lampkin, I love when he vets my stories because he can make a sentence flow. He can get that like almost like poetic sentence flow of something, and he'll always come up with something clever. He'll always come up with some little clever pun or something to fit in there, and it's always really interesting. So yeah, it's the biggest thing I've learned is to punch up my writing through all of these different perspectives and avenues of these professionals in the industry.
And that's exactly right. I always tell my students a second, a third, a fourth set of eyes on whatever you're writing can be very helpful. So before you graduated from Mississippi State, you were instrumental in Take 30, our 8-hour 9-to-5 student newscast. Talk a little bit about your contributions there and some of the stories you generated.
Yeah, I enjoyed that so much. I love collaborating with with creative people, and we got such an amazing class in Take 30. Everybody was so passionate and just wanted to get that show to be as good as possible and run as smoothly as possible. And when you're working on a project and everybody is just pushing all in the same direction, there's like no feeling like that. And I feel like in Take 30 is the first time I've ever felt that. And it's one of the things that really made me fall in love with production. But my role in that was just wherever you need me.
Yes.
Do you need a VOSOT? Okay, I'll go grab that VOSOT. Do you need me to edit something? Okay, I'll edit something. Do you need help with editing? Okay, I'll stop what I'm doing and come help you. And I think that is one of the most important things about production is that teamwork. You have to be pushing all in the same direction. Otherwise, nothing gets done because it takes every single aspect of a production running smoothly for all of it to go off without a hitch. One little link in that chain that is broken is everything is going to fall apart. So I did my best to be a strong link in that chain and to pick up slack where we needed it. And that is more of the stuff of, you know, doing directing. Like I helped direct a couple shows. I did teleprompter a couple shows, and just whenever somebody was out or sick or whatever, I'd pick up. But talking about like the podcast thing that I did on the show, the way I found stories was I would just brainstorm. I would think about what stories people were doing that week and be like, okay, what's one that I really like? And then find something, think about that theme, and then try to come up with an idea around that theme, of course. And then finding the interviews, some of them I scheduled ahead of time.
Yeah.
Most days I just did it the day of, and that was rough. But luckily, Mississippi State has such a wide resource of people to talk to, of experts and professionals. So most of the time I just ran to an office and knocked on doors and I said, hey, can you talk to me about sports health? Or can you talk to me about infrastructure? And most of the time everybody was just like, okay, yeah, come on in, come sit down. And that's just what I love about MSU. Everybody just has that drive to help each other. I just love Mississippi State for that.
Me too. And then talk a little bit about it. So now you've been out in the field for several months now. And I know just as a general assignment reporter, you cover all things news. What has been your favorite coverage thus far?
I don't have a specific story, but the thing that I've found that I love to cover the most is art and culture and people giving back to their community. And I think what I love about that is we live in a time where so much you see is negative. There's nothing, and you know, I think there's a space for that. I think there's a need to have those hard conversations. But it doesn't need to be all you consume, and it doesn't need to be all you see, because that's not all that's in the world. There's this big national conversation of all the horrible things that are happening in the country and in the world. And what I want to do is I want to bring forward these small local stories of people doing good things, because those people are still left. Those are the people that are still in the communities driving things forward. And I meet so many people every day who are just like giving their time and energy and attention, and they're not making a lot of money doing this, if at all, but they are out here trying to volunteer to get food to the hungry, or get jackets to homeless people, or or volunteers at the Boys and Girls Club. There are all these people in your local community that are doing things to help all the time, and I just like to bring a light to that, to show that there is still good in the world. We're not just doom and gloom all the time.
Very true. And then, so switching gears a little bit, I saw a picture of you. You were holding an award recently. You were an award-winning journalist. I think you were at the Mississippi Association of Broadcasters award ceremony. Talk a little bit about that experience and the story that was the award winner. I
was so proud to win that award. I got third place for general news category for a story about a women's rights march in Tupelo. It was just before the election, and so it was kind of a women's rights march, but sort of a Kamala Harris supporting march. And you know, it's kind of hard to cover those political stories, because you have to be fair and balanced. You have to show both sides if you can, but there's not both sides there. So I just showed one side, but I made sure to, like, I talked to a Senate candidate, Ty Pinkins, and I told him before the interview, I said, do not campaign in this interview. I said, I cannot, if you campaign in this interview, I need to reach out to your opposition, and they don't need airtime for this story. The story's not about the politicians. This is about these people out here trying to march for a change. And so he did a really good job of not making anything political, but I was very proud that story actually got picked up by our CNN stuff, so affiliate stations could run it that have CNN, and so I was really proud about that. And then to be nominated for that award and get third place in the general news category for the whole state is just such a huge, huge accomplishment. I was so excited, and my biggest thing about that was I made that while I was still in college. I can't believe that a story that I made in college won third place for the whole state of all these reporters that have been in the field, that are that were out of college at the time when they submitted all their work, and I just can't believe it. And big thanks to Grace Brister for finding that story. She found that and sent that to me, and she was like, "Go cover this," and I was like, "Okay, I got it." And it was,
I love Grace. She's so fabulous.
She's
She's
a
spoken
sweetheart.
to my class a few times. And then so. Talk a little bit about it. As a journalist, I'm sure you look up to other journalists. Do you have a few favorites in mind?
Ira Glass, This American Life. I like some of Ezra Klein's reporting. Some stuff he's a little centrist, but I like his reporting. He's good. And then the people at Radiolab, I'm forgetting their names. But the two main hosts of Radiolab, they are really wonderful. But if there's one journalist that I could just meet and just pick their brain, it would be Ira Glass. The stories, the things he sees in stories, are like something you'd never think of. You listen to him interview, and he talks to people like he's known them forever, and that's such an amazing skill to get somebody so comfortable with you that you just feel like you're just sitting down and having conversations with a friend. And I'm like, that's kind of the goal. That's what I aspire to get in my interviews.
Good. And then, so we talked a little bit about this off camera. You've been in the field, you've gained field experience, you're kind of mixing it with like your classroom experience. What has been kind of the difference there? What are you seeing the most in terms of field versus classroom experience?
There's just stuff that you don't think of. Like, you learn all the technical stuff in school. You learn about focus and lighting and sound, audio levels and angles and composition, but you don't learn about, like, in the real world, there's people and there's things and there's animals and there's unpredictable variables in the world that you aren't prepared for until you go out and face them. So one of the big things I think about is when I first started at WCBI, I did this story at a church. It was just I think it was an NAACP rally. And I set up and I was like, oh, the lighting is really good here. I'm gonna set up my interview and do this interview. And I set up, and if you've ever been in a small church, you know there's that little entryway where there's two doors, little entryway, bathrooms, and then another entryway. I set up in that entryway because I was like, sunlight, looks good. Set up, people in and out, go into the bathroom the whole time. You could hear the bathroom flushing in my recording. You could see people walking behind. My interview just kept getting interrupted by people walking through, and that was it was like, if I just went based off of what I was taught purely in school, I'd be like, this is a perfect interview. The lighting is perfect, the background looks great, the composition is beautiful, but in real life, it wasn't perfect. In real life, it was kind of a mess. And so now I pay a lot more attention to what's going on around me before I set up and lock in a position in an interview like that.
Of course, and the more we do, the more we learn. Thank you so much, Kaleb, for joining me. We've run out of time, and thank you all for joining me as well. We'll see you next time for Communication Connection.